Good morning. Our today's topic is introduction and the subject is estimation and costing in electrical engineering. What is estimation? Estimation is an art by which an estimator gets an approximation of material, cost and the time to be taken for the completion of the project. So estimation should be taken out before starting any project so that the approximation of the material, cost and the time can be taken from it. Why it is important? What is the purpose of estimating and costing? Firstly, to ensure that the list of the material should be completed before starting any project. And second one is that the money should not be misused in the project. If we have done the estimating and costing before starting any project, then there are very less chances that the money could be misused. Third one is the time is saved because the everything is planned before starting the project, so time is saved in this process. So this is the performer for making estimates. First row shows the serial number, second one is the name of the item with specification. In second row there will be the items with their specification. For example, let us say that it is MCB, so it is with specification that of what ampere MCB is required. Then third is the quantity, the quantity required for that specific item, then the amount. Then last one is remarks if there are any. Then is the price list. What is price list? By market survey, the estimator can get the price list from the shopkeepers. Not from the one shopkeeper, from the many shopkeepers, so that they should not cheat on us. In this market survey, the shopkeepers gives the price list of various items. This price list is updated according to the market rate from time to time. Then is a net price list. After getting the price list, then the net price list of the items is prepared. Net price list is the list in which the discounts are deducted from the price of an item, and if there are any taxes they will be added to the net amount, so the net price of an item comes out. For example, 15 ampere switch and socket 3 pin, the rate for which is 40. It is just an example, so the net price is 40. So the shopkeeper, let us say the shopkeeper is giving the discount of 10%, so the minus 4 from 40, it will be 36. If there are any taxes, let us say that it is 5%. 5% of 36 is 1.8. So 36 plus 1.8 is 37.80. So this is the net price of an item. Then what is market survey? It is conducted for estimating the cost of materials so that shopkeeper should not cheat us by overcharging. Market survey is done basically from the maximum number of shops or maximum number of suppliers available for that particular item we want. Then are overhead charges. Expenses such as government taxes, additional expenses on labor, etc. are called overhead charges. Normally, 20 to 25% of the total expenses are spent on overhead charges. For example, we have prepared the list of the items and then we have calculated the total amount for the project. Then we add 20 to 25% of that amount for overhead charges. Then is the contingency charges. There are certain expenses which are not calculated during estimating the material cost. For example, before starting the project, we don't know that what kind of conditions could come during the project. For example, floods, earthquakes, natural calamities. For these conditions, we include 3 to 5% of the material cost to the total cost. These are called contingency charges. The next is the labor charges. How we can calculate the labor charges? There are two methods to calculate labor charges. First one is electrical point method. Second is fixed percentage method. What is electrical point method? It is a simple method to calculate the labor charges. Total number of points in the building are counted. Then the per unit rate is paid to the labor. For example, here in the figure, the description of material is given. Then the number of points. For example, main board installation, there are 4 points. Then the rate for one main board installation is 30. Then to the labor we will pay 120 for these 4 main board installations. Then similarly for switchboards, for example, there are 30 switchboards in the building, and for one switchboard we are paying to the labor rupees 20, so the total is 600. So the total labor charge come out to be 120 plus 600 is equal to 720. So this is the electrical point method to calculate the labor charges. Then is the fixed percentage method. Here the total cost of the material is calculated. For example, here it is 6,000. Then the fixed percentage, let us say that it is 20%. It could be any, it could be 10%, 30%, 40, 50, any which is fixed. So here it is 20%, so 20% of the 6,000 is 1200. So total labor charges is rupees 1200. The next is the procedure of purchasing. So it is a process to purchase any item through proper process. First one is requisition, second is the call of quotation, then the comparative statement, then purchase order, then inspecting the material, and then last one is the payment to the supplier. First one is requisition. Requisition is taken before starting any project. So it is the requisition is taken in the requisition performer. Here it is the example of requisition performer. The material required for the project is prepared and filled in the requisition performer. Here in the second row it is name and specification of the item, then the quantity required, then its approximate rate, because we don't know at that point of time that at what exact rate we will get that item, so it is the approximate rate per item. So total amount that will be approximate, and the purpose for which it is required. So the approval authority will give the approval for that work, that is approved for rupees, that the amount we have calculated in this performer. So this is a requisition before starting any project. There is a call of quotation. Next step is to issue letters to various suppliers. So minimum we required in government system, we required minimum 3 suppliers for calling rate list. We have taken the requisition, then we will call the quotation, that at what price you will give us these items which we have required. So there are minimum 3 we require to call the quotations. Maximum it could be any. So it is a sample of quotation call letter to, here I have written ABC firm. It is the firm which to which we are issuing this quotation call letter. Then the subject is quotation call letter. So you are requested to quote your lowest rates for the following materials. Here the 1, 2, 3. You can write your material required. So next is the terms and conditions, on which terms and conditions you are requiring this material. Then third one is comparative statement. Now we have issued the quotation call letters to various suppliers. Let us say that we got the quotation of 3 items. Quotation from 3 suppliers. Supplier 1, supplier 2 and supplier 3. So then we will prepare the comparative statement. Here is the date of opening of quotation. So that we will write in this here. Then the time, because the opening of the quotation should be in the presence of community should be in the presence of the opening of the quotations should be in the presence of committee members. So here we will write the date of opening and its time. So the specification of material, quantity required, supplier 1, the rate of supplier 1, rate supplied by supplier 2 and 3. Then here from the comparative statement we will select the supplier who is providing us the lowest rates. The purchase order. Basically, the supplier is selected in the comparative statement who is supplying the lowest rates. Then the purchase order is issued to the selected supplier. So this is a specimen of purchase order from our principal to the vendor, from here the address of the purchaser to here the address of the supplier. Then subject is the purchase order of the supply of the material. So it's the body of the letter. Sir, reference to your quotation letter number dated this. The rates offered by your firm have been found to be the minimum. Kindly supply the following material on terms and condition. Here we will write the name of the item and specification, rate, amount, and remarks. Then is a tender notice. If we want to purchase some heavy, if we want to do some heavy purchase, then we have to call the tender notice. Then we have to give the tender notice in the newspapers. Then we can't follow that process that we have discussed earlier. It is only for the low purchases. If we want to go for high purchases, we have to call the tender notice. So what is tender notice? The information to be made available for heavy purchase through the newspaper is called tender. Then what is the earnest money? It is a money which is deposited by the tenderer as a guarantee to supply the material. The earnest money is refunded back to unsuccessful tenders. For example, there is some tender in the newspaper and you want to fill that tender, you want to take that tender, then you have to fill the tender form. With that tender form, you have to submit some money which is known as earnest money as a guarantee. If you will not get that tender, then that earnest money will be refunded back to you. These are some guidelines for inviting tender. The tenders are invited on tender forms only. The sealed tender are invited publicly through newspapers. All tenders should be opened in the presence of contractors on the date and time as mentioned in the newspaper. The earnest money to the unsuccessful contractors or suppliers should be returned at the earliest. Normally, the tender offering the lowest rate is accepted, but the contract can be rejected if the earnest money is not deposited with the tender. So it is the example of tender notice. For example, it is from Haryana State Electricity Board. So it's Office of Superintending Engineer 132 kV grade, Panchkula. So here the serial number, description of material or description of work we required, quantity we required, approximate cost also we will give here, earnest money, for example 15,000, 20,000 earnest money we will give in this column, and then the date of completion of work and date of receipt of tender, that we will also mention here, that at what time we want that project to be completed by the tenderer. Then last one is the date of opening of tender with time, that at what time and on what day the tenders will be opened, that too in the presence of the tenderers who had filled the tender. So here the note, the earnest money should be in the form of demand draft in favor of Superintendent Engineer Haryana. Here it is just an example.